Hi everybody. The question of today's video is how caregivers lose sight of what is important. And this video is in response to a question by a friend of a caregiver who's watching a 50-year friendship deteriorate, basically go down the drain. And I've also had spouses mentioned here on videos on my YouTube channel express concern about a marriage disintegrating because a spouse is so attentive to the care of an aging parent that the other spouse feels totally ignored. And you might wonder how this happens, and it really happens more than you think. It's an experience that isn't limited only to caregiving situations. It happens in many life situations where there's this poor balance, this rocking and rolling and ups and downs of relationships due to time constraints and work and other things. So while the person who is so involved in all of this, the caregiver in this sense, experiences a sense of loss because of all these things that they have given up in life, the person in the relationship with the caregiver is experiencing similar losses. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So stay with me for some thoughts about how caregivers and friends and family can lose sight of what's important in all of these relationships. I'm Pamela D. Wilson. I am a caregiving advocate, expert, speaker. Please click on those buttons below, like and share this channel, because the more that you do that, these videos get out to other people on YouTube who are looking for hope, help, and support. And also comment below, because that also helps raise the exposure of these videos. So by doing so, you're actually helping other people. So in any role in life, in caregiving, the problem is that we try to do everything and be everything to everybody. And if you're a caregiver, you likely started out doing these little tiny things like groceries and picking up prescription and maybe mowing the lawn. And then you thought, well, this is going to be fine because it'll only be for 6 months. Things will get better. My parents will get better. This person will get better. But then the problem is after 6 months becomes 12 months, and 12 months becomes a year, and a year becomes 2 years and 5 years and 10 years and 20 years. And so as this caregiver, what you're seeing that this life over here that you knew is like disappearing and becoming less and less over here because you keep giving and giving and giving and saying, yes, of course I will do that. Of course I'm happy to help you. So what happens is you are swept away into caregiving. And again, this can be anything in life, your job, whatever. But the problem is it can be really hard for you to see the effects on other people and other parts outside of this very narrow focus that you're having on caregiving, right? Because you have all these tasks to do and you have a timeline and you have projects and you're just so focused on it. So what you also don't realize as a caregiver is that other people can do the things that you're doing. Now, you might have a sense of pride and think, well, nobody can do it as well as I can. Well, as a caregiver, it's hard to see that you don't have to do every little detail, that everything doesn't have to be so perfect that you don't have to do it all. It's hard to see that somebody else can help out. And it's also hard to just pat yourself on the back and say, wow, I've done a really good job. And now, because I've done this for so long, it's time for somebody else to take over, time for somebody else to provide all of that care that I've been doing, right? And over the years, when this happens, you might have heard your spouse or a family member or a friend say, wow, seems like you're really burned out and you're really exhausted. Have you ever thought of this? And all you can think of is they're not helping and they don't understand and they don't know what I'm going through. You may only think that the other people who understand you are other caregivers. And honestly, that is true. I have a support group on Facebook called the Caregiving Trap, and there's a lot of amazing people in there. But part of the balance of being a caregiver is you have a life as a caregiver and you have this other life over here to help you bring balance back into that caregiving situation so you don't totally become lost into caregiving. Because when you do this, you go further and further down that rabbit hole. You circle the drain, right, of feeling isolated and depressed and that nobody understands and nobody wants to help, and it is such a struggle. And because I've done this for 20 years, I understand that. It is a struggle. It is not easy. You give up social activities and friends and hopefully not a job, but many caregivers do give up a job. And then you spend all your time with this one person that you care for to the exclusion of everything else. And this happens over time. And then you watch everybody else out there having a good time and going on vacation, having jobs and marriages and children. And you become resentful. You become angry thinking, oh my God, how did I possibly get myself into this situation? It's crazy, right? And then what happens is you spend more and more time alone. You're too exhausted to think. You don't have time to listen to anybody's opinions, let alone make a plan to get yourself out of the situation that you've gotten yourself into. And if you're not careful and you keep doing this, one day you will end up with more health problems than the person that you're caring for. And you may end up alone with nobody, no friends, no family, nobody to enjoy a cup of coffee with. So if you're on the other side of this and you're a friend or a family member, how can friends or spouses of caregivers understand everything that caregivers lose sight of and help? So factors include this belief, and this can be true by the caregiver, that every matter is time sensitive and urgent and it has to be done right now. That, there's never any end to work and there's always going to be something to do. Now, this happens because your mom or dad calls you on the phone and says, hey man, the light bulb's out, or I don't have lettuce today, or my prescription needs to be picked up. And so you as the caregiver, you're like, oh my God, I got to hurry up and do this. Well, there's things that need to be done and that can be planned if you think about it and scheduled if you think about it, versus mom or dad's going to the emergency room. I can't really stop this one, so I have to show up. So it's this balance of what's really important, what's most important, what can wait, what can somebody else do. So here's another example. So a friend of a caregiver said, I love my friend who's the caregiver, but now when I'm with this person, the only thing that happens is I listen to the caregiver complain about everything, and the caregiver wants to do what they want to do, and if I want to do something else, that probably doesn't happen, right? So let me give you some insight on why this happens, right? It's because the caregiver has given up control over everything, right? Their daily life, their hours, weeks, months are involved in doing everything that this person who needs care needs, to the exclusion of themselves. So of course they want some control and they want some attention from other people, you, their friend, when they spend time with you. And so what happens is that caregiver is so time pressured that, if you say you need to try something else or do something else, they may not even hear you, and the same thing goes in a marriage. If one spouse is caring for an aging parent, there may just be so much going on that they don't hear you saying, hey, I love you. I want to spend more time with you. So as a friend or that spouse, you've got choices to make about boundaries that you can set and things that you can do to maintain that relationship. Because you as that friend may be the one who has a lot more flexible time than the caregiver. So you may be the one who has to give. Maybe you actually have to go spend time with that person and the person they care for to get time with them. So if you're a spouse, it's a little harder because you live together, right? So you almost may have to look at this caregiving thing as an addiction, as a substitute, substance abuse addiction, or like alcohol, where the caregiver just can't help themselves because they are so swept away by all the responsibilities. They can't see, because of this sense of duty or responsibility to a parent, or feeling guilty if they don't show up, that the marriage is going to deteriorate, or you're going to one day just disappear and leave. I mean, and honestly, they may be so busy that they don't even notice. I hate to say that, but that can become true. So if you're in a marriage, try to get the attention of your spouse who's lost perspective. Think of times when you were under so much pressure that you couldn't even think, or that, one more thing being added to your day was going to push you over the edge, and do your best to be compassionate. Ask the hard questions. Is our friendship important to you? Then how do we maintain this? Is our marriage important to you? Then how do we maintain this? You have to have those conversations. You can't assume that this caregiver who is swept away in duties sees all this or knows all this, because they're so busy. And the more distant you become, or the more apathetic you become. Then they think that you really don't care and it doesn't matter. Well, if it matters, it matters. So if you are this caregiver in this situation, or a friend of a caregiver, or a spouse of a caregiver, start thinking about these things. You have to be the one that values what you have to offer. You have to be the one that values yourself. So stop depending on other people or events to appreciate you. And this could be the person that you care for, right? Make yourself happy. Know that you have value. Never assume that you know what another person means or says, because words are so easily misinterpreted. Ask for clarification. Say, hey, I want to make sure I understand what you're telling me. Then as a caregiver or any role in life, stop only being with people who are like you. There's obviously a benefit to that, like caregiving support groups, right? But if you don't get out of that caregiving world and see that there's this whole life out there for you, you're going to miss out on a lot of things. You're going to miss out on a lot of life. The other thing is stop trying to change other people. Your parent may be set in their ways. They may or may not want to participate in care. They may or may not want to change their diet, even though it's a good thing to do. They may or may not want to exercise, just as you have all these reasons why you do the things that you do. So accept other people as they are. Offer your help. If they take it, that's great. If they don't, nothing you can do. All you can do is change yourself and the way that you respond to these situations. And last, and this is going to be the most difficult, don't allow other people to make you feel inferior or to damage your self-esteem or like you are not doing a good job if you are doing a good job. People who do this tend to be insecure themselves. They tend to criticize other people for faults that they have. So return those insecurities by being kind and going about your life and being proud of yourself. Don't let other people make you feel less important or make you feel devalued. Express your opinions, offer advice, and release that attachment to the outcome. Go on with your life. Live at your life today. Look at your life and all the things that are so important to you and find a way to start doing these things if you have become that caregiver who's gotten lost in this doing and high level of responsibility. Find a way to do those things and spend time with people who are important to you, because none of us are promised tomorrow. Anybody in your life may not wake up tomorrow. They may be involved in a serious accident today. This is how life happens. I'm Pamela D. Wilson. I'm a caregiving expert, advocate, and speaker. Again, please share and like these videos. There are over 800 here on YouTube for caregivers. Thanks for being here. I look forward to seeing you all again soon in another video.